So the difference quotient, basically what it does is this. If you have a graph, and you're looking at 2 points on this graph. Let's say these 2 points. Okay? And if you draw a line connecting those 2 points or through those 2 points, if you draw a line, that line, see how that line intersected the graph twice? That line is called a secant line. You don't have to know that for here. You're going to need to know it next semester. That's called a secant line versus a tangent line. A tangent line is a line that touches it only once. Something like this. That would be a tangent line here. Again, you don't have to know that. You don't have to know anything about that here. But the difference quotient, what the difference quotient is, it measures the slope of a secant line at these 2 points. So the difference quotient measures, secant is S-E-C-A-N-T. Secant line, the difference quotient measures the slope of a secant line. You're going to see this again when you talk about derivatives next semester if you go that route. All right. Now, you don't have to know anything about secant line. You have to know anything about tangent line. You have to know anything about derivatives. You just need to know how to compute using the difference quotient. And it's just plug and chug. Now, one of the things you have to be able to do is this. Okay, so listen carefully. Let's kind of review this. Okay, let's review. Suppose you had this function. All right, let's suppose you had the function f of x is 3x minus 5. And I asked you to find a f of negative 1. Now, all you can do that one. What do you do to find f of negative 1? Yeah, wherever you see the variable x, you plug in what? Negative 1. So this becomes 3 times negative 1 minus 5. You agree? So that's going to be a negative 3 and a negative 5, which is a negative 8. So f of negative 1 equals a negative 8. Y'all agree? Okay, B part. What if you want to find f of x plus 2? F of x plus 2. So this time, where we see the variable, what do you plug in? X plus 2. Okay, now remember we talked about this last week, so that's kind of review here. So x plus 2. So be careful though, you have to back to your function. And in place of this x, you're going to plug in what? X plus 2. So I get 3 times in parentheses, what do I put? X plus 2, and then subtract what? 5. Now, what else? You got to go further from here. What are you going to do? Distribute. So you get 3x plus 6 minus 5, and then your answer is going to be what? 3x plus 1. So f of x plus 2 is 3x plus 1. Now remember, when you plug in a number, you're going to end up getting a what? A number, a real number. When you substitute a variable expression, you can end up with a variable expression. All right, what about C? Suppose you want to find f of x plus h. F of x plus h. So just like f of x plus 2, wherever you see the variable, what do you plug in? X plus h. So if I plug in x plus h, I get 3 times x plus h minus 5, right? Y'all agree? All right, what's the next step? Distribute. So that's 3x plus what? 3h minus 5. Can I combine anything? No, so there's your answer. So that's f of x plus h. That's f of x plus h. Okay? Now that was what kind of function? What kind of function is this? Linear. All right, let's do one that's quadratic. Let's kind of do the same thing with quadratic. So we still haven't talked about the difference quotient. We still haven't done that. I haven't told you what that is. In order to be able to do this, you've got to be able to do B and C. You lost what? You're doing the same thing. You're just where in place of x, what do you substitute? X plus h. So 3 times x is 3x. 3 times h is what? 3h minus 5. Same thing, right? It's just you can't combine them. All right, now watch this one. Now you got to be careful with the quadratic. All right, let's suppose f of x is this. Suppose f of x is 2x squared minus 3x plus 1. 2x squared minus 3x plus 1. So that's going to be a little bit more work. All right, so you got to be careful with your algebra. All right, so let's find f of negative 2. Now that part's easy. Wherever you see the variable x, what do you plug in? Negative 2. All right, so wherever you see the variable x, you plug in negative 2. So I get 2 times x. What do I put in this parentheses? But what am I doing to this negative 2? Very good. Minus 3 times negative 2, and then what? Plus 1. Order of operations, I square before I multiply, right? So that's 4 times 2, which is 8. This is plus 6, plus 1, right? Okay, so what do I get? 15. So f of negative 2 is 15. Okay? What about b? Suppose I want to find f of x minus 3. F of x minus 3. So remember, our function is this. Let me go ahead and just rewrite it. Okay, that's my function. So remember, wherever you see the variable x, what do I plug in? X minus 3. So I just plug in x minus 3 wherever you see that variable x. Right? Okay, so just like the one we just did, you're going to say 2 times in parentheses. What do I put inside this parentheses? X minus 3. But what am I doing to it? Squaring. Minus 3 times, what do I put inside this parentheses? And then plus 1. So notice, make sure it matches up. Make sure it matches up. 2x squared, this is your x, right? That I'm covering. 2x squared, so that's your x. What do I put in its place? X minus 3. That's your x right here. What do I put in its place? X minus 3. And then your plus 1. So that should be the first thing you need to fill in. Okay, now you have to get rid of the parentheses. Mistake people make, and we talked about this before, is they want to distribute here. Can you do that? No, the only time you can distribute is if the exponent is a what? A 1. You see, you can distribute here, but think about the order of operations. Remember, the order of operations says I do exponents before I do what? Multiplication. See, that's multiplying, that's exponents. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. You do exponents first. So off to the side, you got to figure out x minus 3 squared is. So figure that out. So that's going to be a little bit of work, but it's doable. You can do this. All right, now from last semester, what does x minus 3 squared mean? X minus 3 times itself. And then how do you multiply this? FOIL. Use the FOIL method. So what's x times x? What's the outer? It says those binomials are the same. The outer and the inner should be what? The same. And then what's your last? Plus 9. Combine like terms. And now all I found was this little part here. So then, but remember, all of this, though, has to be multiplied by what? 2. So be on the safe side. Write it like this first. X squared minus 6x plus 9 in parentheses. See, that's just this, right? Y'all agree? This is this? Okay. Now let's go ahead and distribute this one to begin with. So what does that become? Very good. And then plus 1. Now distribute this. What do you get? Y'all agree it's 2x squared? Okay, what else? Plus 18, and write everything else over. Write everything else over. And then finally, what's the last step? Combine like terms. So what's your answer? All right, a negative 12x and a negative 3x is a what? A positive 18 and a positive 9 and a positive 1. No, 28. 28. So f of x minus 3 is this. Y'all agree? Let's see what I did. All right, so x minus 3 squared, you figure it out. You put it back here, and then you distribute. That's this little part here. Well, you're not in here. It's not going to mean anything. It's going to mean something next semester because you said you're taking business calculus, so it's going to come into place there. So it has to do with the derivative. What now? That is this. That's why you have to figure out this part here. Okay? All right. Now, let's do f of x plus h. I'm going to need more room than I have. All right, C. So remember, f of x is this, 2x squared minus 3x plus 1. All right, now I want to find f of x plus h. So you see that x plus h, that's going to be in your difference quotient. So you need to be able to manipulate a function at x plus h. Because when we do the difference quotient, that's going to be there. All right, so just like x minus 3, where we see the variable x, what do I plug in? X plus h. So what I would do first is actually substitute x plus h into x. So what you should be showing is this. 2 times what? Squared. Minus 3 times what? And then what do I put? Plus 1. That should be your first step. I need to see this. You should be showing this. Okay, now the rest is just manipulation. So what is it I've got to do next on the side? I've got to figure out what x plus h squared is. So x plus h squared means x plus h times itself, right? Y'all agree? All right, now FOIL. Now listen carefully. X times x. Okay. X, the outer. X times h. xh. That's all you can write it as. The inner h times x is the same as what? xh. So here's your outer and here's your inner. Y'all agree they're the same, right? We prefer you put it xh. Okay? And then h times h is what? Okay. Combine like terms, I get what? Okay. So whenever, now listen, when you do the difference quotient, when you do the difference quotient and it's quadratic, you're always going to do this part here. So whenever you square x plus h squared, every time is you're going to end up with what? X squared. You're going to end up with x squared plus what? 2xh plus h squared. Because you're always going to have this in it. All right, so that goes where? Next to the 2. So that's 2 times this binomial. Okay, y'all agree that this right here, this is this, right? Okay, now let's go ahead and distribute the negative 3. What does that become? Okay, now distribute the 2. What do we get? Yep, and that's what you're going to be doing. Hey, when you do difference quotient with quadratic, and they usually ask like that on the final, that's what you got to deal with. Can I combine anything? No, they're all different. That's the answer to f of x plus h. Now, when you do difference quotient, some stuff's going to cancel out. Nothing canceled out here. Nothing was combined, right? But when you do the difference quotient, you're going to see how all that comes into play. But you can't get difference quotient yet if you don't know how to find f of x plus h. But notice work you have to do to find f of x plus h.
That's the end of it?
Yes.
That's the end of it.
That is f of x plus h. All right. You found f of x plus h, right? That's it. All right. Now, let's talk about the difference quotient. Let's talk about the difference quotient. So, because of time, I'm just going to tell you what the difference quotient is. Now, in the video, when you go back and you want to look at that video, I do tell you how it's derived. All right, but I'm just going to tell you what the formula is. So this is the formula for difference quotient. Now, you don't have to memorize this. I'll give it to you. You just need to know how to use it. So remember, the difference quotient just measures the slope of a secant line. It has to do with slope. And so when you look at the video and you see how that formula comes about, it talks about rise over run. So just look at the video with that section. And even the first part is where it talks about the derivation. But this is a difference quotient. The numerator is going to be f of x plus h minus f of x. That's your numerator. So notice, see that f of x plus h? The denominator is going to be h. So that's the difference quotient. Now you don't know, unless you saw that video, the first part, you don't know what this means. But that just means the slope of a secant line. So to watch the video, it takes about 10 minutes to kind of explain this. So just look at it. But I'll give you the formula. Now next semester, you're going to talk about this a little bit more with the idea of limits and derivatives. But that's going to be next semester. We don't do limits and derivatives in here. Okay, now, find, the directions will say this. Find the difference quotient. Difference. Now, make sure you understand why the word difference is used. What word comes to mind when you think of difference? Subtraction. Do you see a subtraction? You see a subtraction, right? What comes to your mind when you think of quotient? A division. But do you see a division? Numerator divided by denominator. So hence, that's why it's called the difference quotient. Difference and then quotient. All right, find the difference quotient of f of x equals negative 2x plus 6. Find the difference quotient for that function. All right. So, what you may want to do, now remember, this is your difference quotient. So you're going to say f of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. Make sure you say divided by h is going to equal, and you're going to have a bunch of stuff. Okay? All right. Now, what I would do first, I would just go to the side and I would just say something like step 1. Step 1. The hard part, but not the hard part, but the work, most of the work can come from this one right here. So what I would do, I would go off to the side and say, step 1, I need to find f of x plus h. So that would be step 1, find f of x plus h. Just like we did in the previous problem. So that says I go to my function, wherever you see the variable x, what do I plug in? X plus h. So that's this right here. You see that? So that becomes negative 2 times what? And then plus what? 6, right? Y'all agree? And then distribute. I get negative 2x. What else? No, not negative. Negative 2h minus 2h. And then what? Can I combine anything? No. All right. So y'all agree with step 1? Okay, that's what I would do. I would write step 1, do the work, and now come back and substitute. What is this now? Yeah. Okay, yeah, but just this right now. Okay, y'all agree that this is this, right? Okay, we did this from this work here. Now we're going to subtract the function. What is f of x? Now, you need to put that in parentheses, because if you don't, remember, when you're subtracting f of x, you're subtracting all of this. So you need to put that in parentheses. So every step, you're going to put parentheses and then your function. Just like that. And then all that's being divided by what? H. All right, let's go over this again. This part, you did that work, and you put it here, right? Okay. Then this says, from that, I got to subtract my function f of x. F of x is always given to you. What is f of x in this case? Yeah. So put that in parentheses because you're subtracting f of x. But all that's being divided by what? H. I'm telling you this. Some of you, and I'm going to use the word lazy. Some of you are going to be lazy. You're going to leave that division H off, and you keep on saying equal, and I'm going to mark it wrong. Because you have to have what? H down there. Don't be lazy. Just take half a second and write it. All right. Now get rid of the parentheses. How do you get rid of this parentheses? Distribute. So negative 2x minus 2h plus 6. And what does that become? Very good. And then what? All over what? H. Okay. Now, at that point, every term that doesn't have a factor of h has to cancel out. Every factor that doesn't have a factor of h in it has to cancel out. So negative 2x does not have an h in it. Does it cancel out? Because its opposite better be listed. If it's not, you did something wrong. Okay? At this point, always, whether it's linear or quadratic or cubic, and you're not going to do cubic because it takes too long, but anything that doesn't have an h in it, it's going to cancel out. You see a 6? Is their opposite located? What's left? And then reduce negative 2. So there's your difference quotient. So f of x plus h minus f of x over h is equal. In the blank, what do you put? Negative 2. Now that means something. That does mean something. You're going to see what that means in terms of slopes next semester. Slope of a secant line. Yes. Yep. Right. Yes. Yeah. So you're finding this, so in place of the variable, you plug in that. So you're always going to substitute x plus h. Wherever you see the variable x, you plug in x plus h. But remember this part here. At this part, every term that doesn't have a factor of h is going to cancel out. If it doesn't, you did something wrong. Okay? All right, let's do a quadratic. What was that? No, that wasn't a quadratic. That was linear. Who asked that question? Girl, you know that's linear, right? There's no x squared here. All right, that's linear. Okay, let's do a quadratic. So difference quotient, find the difference quotient. For f of x equal 3x squared minus 4x minus 2. So write that down. So 3x squared minus 4x minus 2. It's very simple. It really is. That should be an easy number of points to get. It's just not a big plug and check. All right, so what is the difference quotient? Right. Now remember, you don't know what it really means, but it's the slope of a secant line. It becomes a little bit clearer next semester. So my step 1, remember, is to do what? Find f of x plus h. So that'll be your step 1. So whatever is going to be here is what I'm going to put here. So I got to do some work. So wherever you see the variable x, what do I plug in? X plus h. That's what that says. Y'all agree? So do your work here. Don't do everything here. It gets messy. And if I can't read it, you're not going to get hardly anything. Okay? All right. So you got to say 3 times what? What do I do to that x plus 8? Minus 4 times what? Good. And then what? Minus 2. Okay? So that's where we're at now. Now, what's the next thing I do? It's still that step 1.
Where x plus
X plus 8. Now, every time you square that, you always square x plus 8 and always the same thing. So when you square x plus 8, do that on the side. Watch what happens. Remember, x plus 8 squared means x plus 8 times itself. Yeah, so right away, you know, some of you already know what it's supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be x squared plus what? 2xh plus what? H squared. And you know because you keep doing the same thing over and over again. Now, for some of you may not have remembered that. If you don't, it's no big deal. What do you use? FOIL. Use FOIL. What's x times x? X squared. What's the outer? XH. What's the inner? And what's the last? Combine like terms, what do you get? All right. So that's what x plus h squared is always going to be. It's always going to be what? It's always going to be that right here. So now I take this trinomial and I replace it here. So I'm going to say 3 times what? Okay. Now distribute the negative 4. What do I get here? Minus 2. Now distribute the 3. What do you get? Good. Yep. Write everything else. Yeah. So before I go on, remember when we did this one earlier? Look. Remember this? Remember that one? That C one? All right. Isn't that the same thing? Same idea? No, hold on. We're not there yet. I'm just making a connection between this and what we did independently a while ago. All right. Now, that goes here, right? Okay, so watch what you're going to write. You say equal, and then write all of this. Write all of this. Now, make sure you're careful as you write. So 3x squared plus 6xh plus 3h squared minus 4x minus 4h minus 2. Y'all agree? Now I've got to subtract what? I got to subtract f of x. So remember, put that in parentheses. What is f of x? Guys, remember we did this, right? Minus f of x. All the steps are the same. This is a little bit tedious because it's quadratic. So minus f of x. What goes inside this parentheses? F of x. 3x squared minus 4x minus 2. And all that's being divided by what? H. Now, what's the next step? Distribute the negative. What? Right here. 3x squared minus 4x minus 2. Yeah. Okay. So 3x squared plus 6xh plus 3h squared minus 4x minus 4h minus 2. And then what does this become? And then what else? Plus 4x, right? Plus 2. All over what? H. So it is at this point that every term that doesn't have a factor of h cancel out, right? So 3x squared, negative 3x squared. This has an h, this has an h, this does not. Negative 4x and a what? Positive 4x. This has an h. Negative 2 and a what? Positive 2. So every term that doesn't have an h as a factor better cancel out. If it doesn't, you did something wrong. Now look at what's left. In the numerator, what do I have? All over what? H. So that's where I'm at. That is where I'm at. Now in 99, you've got to factor that numerator. What can I do to factor that numerator? No. Factor out an H. The D set is H. They all have an H in common, right? Take out the H. Factor out. Now when you factor out, notice what's going to happen. Watch. You're going to get H times, and then what does this become right here? Plus? Minus? All over what? And now these H's divide out, and what's your answer? Yep. It took us a lot of minutes. But once you practice it, it goes quick. Once you practice with this, it goes quick.
Right, then we'll remember that the whatever is already. Go back real quick, let's just go back to the canceling, where you start canceling.
What now?
Up one more, right here, yeah. Let me see where you start canceling.
Every term that doesn't have a factor of h cancels out. Yes. Every term that has a factor of h is left. At this point, notice there's an h in every term, right? So in Math 99, you learn to factor it out. And then you reduce. And there's your answer. Yeah. Okay? All right, now on 3 point on that worksheet, that's 2.2 part 5. 2.2 part 5. This is linear, that's the easy one. And this is quadratic. Okay? Now guys, make sure you show the work. Make sure you show the work. Because if you skip steps and definitely if you don't put h's in the denominator and all of a sudden you have an h, you're not going to get full credit. Show the work as we did it, okay? Get your points. Get your points. Just practice with this. It's very simple. I mean, once you practice with it, it's not that bad. This is easy to deal with. This is linear, so that should be an easy one compared to this. This is more work. That was more work because you got to square x plus h. Remember that? You get to square x plus h here? No. But you have to square x plus h here. Okay? All right. Now, the next thing we're going to do is this. You did this last semester. So tomorrow we're going to start looking at this. So this should be a review for the most part because you had this in Math 98. Remember in Math 98 you found the slope given 2 points? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Then you also wrote equations of lines. Remember point slope form? You may or may not remember it. Y minus y1 equals a slope times x minus x1. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. So if you're not going to be here tomorrow, just make sure Thursday that you view the video on this. And then this one is perpendicular and parallel. Remember, parallel lines have what kind of slope? You remember from high school geometry? Parallel lines have what kind of slope? Same or different? Same. Parallel lines have same slope. Perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals of each other. Okay? All right, so tomorrow we're gonna definitely do this. Guys, listen up. So tomorrow, this was not going to be, in terms of conceptual, this is not going to be hard. Partly because you probably will have seen this before. It's not as difficult. The difference quotient you probably didn't see before, so it's a little bit more challenging for you. But this will not. So I need for you to look at the video though for this to see how to write stuff. And then we're going to start talking about graphing quadratic functions. Maybe one little part of it. So we'll do this next week. Graphing is very easy. Graphing this is easy. Just remember some steps and that's it. No, it's whatever you got up there. Okay, so if you're not here tomorrow, Thursday, what are you going to do Thursday during this time? Watch the video. Okay? All right, now, hold on.